So I am what you would call a Rules of Engagement super fan. And I'm here to tell you that if you had any plans whatsoever on potentially watching this show, you should hesitate no longer. Immediately start watching it. When it comes to the sitcom genre, I've pretty much watched them all. How I Met Your Mother, Scrubs, That 70s Show, 30 Rock, It's Always Sunny, New Girl, Seinfeld, and also in Seinfeld you might remember Patrick Warburton played the hilarious Putty, Elaine's on-again, off-again boyfriend. And Rules of Engagement plays off of some of the same storylines from Seinfeld. There are some similarities, and I truly mean that in the best way possible. But like I was saying, you name it, I've binged it. And not just once. With most of these, we're talking multiple full watch throughs. And there is no question in my mind that it stands out above them all as the most underrated pre-woke comedy that has ever been on the air. And there's a great chance you've never heard of it. For the record, I do think that It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is the greatest comedy ever on TV. But a show that's been on the air as long as It's Always Sunny is usually guaranteed to have some duds for seasons. And Sunny definitely has some duds. Rules of Engagement does not. In fact, I struggle to think of one episode in Rules of Engagement that you would need to skip. 7 seasons and 100 total episodes of comedic gold, ready to be watched and rewatched over again. That's probably the most special thing about the show. It's rewatchability. I have introduced this show to several friends since starting it, all the way back in 2007. And now I'm not the only one that's ashamed to admit that the second I get to the end of my re-binging journey of Rules of Engagement, I immediately and always start it over again. From the beginning. No questions asked. No contemplation. I think the reason I feel compelled to always start it over again is because the ending is so good and it leaves you wanting so much more. And because the show was discontinued after 7 seasons, not canceled, there's only one option. I alluded to this show being a pre-woke era classic. And if you've seen it before, you know that this show could not have been made in today's Hollywood climate. It's a throwback, an opportunity to laugh at people the way we used to in the good old days. And more importantly, the way we do when we're alone with our friends and family. This show is for you if you just want to relax, laugh, and have a good time. We'll get to the reason why you probably have never heard of it later, but for now, hit the like button and allow me to explain this show's genius, hopefully spoiler-free. Rules has a super relatable cast, whether you're in the single stage of your life, engaged, or have been married. Depending on who you talk to, Russell is arguably the star of the show. The characters are all so great, it's tough to decide, but he's definitely up there for me. Side note, my wife hates his guts. Russell will definitely give you a Barney Stinson vibe if you're familiar with How I Met Your Mother. However, it isn't being handsome and charming combined with lying that gets Russell the affection he desires from women. Rather, it's the fact that he's a trust fund kid, all grown up, working for his very wealthy father, plus a lot of lying. Part of Russell's charm is that he has no disillusions about this when it comes to his love life. He is shamelessly honest about himself and how he gets women.
Say it tonight.
All right, but there's got to be some ground rules. You're not allowed to lie or pay for it.
Dude, you're tying my hands a little bit.
And no tying their hands.
Well, I like it when
It's hilariously refreshing. In season 3, Tamir Patel, aka Timmy, is introduced as Russell's new male assistant. Male because of a company edict that he is no longer allowed to have female assistants.
What am I gonna do with a male assistant?
Well, what do you do with a female assistant?
I don't know, sniff their hair, tell them to bend over and pick stuff up. It's all in the reprimand.
Timmy and Russell possibly have the best bromance in all of television history. And I don't say that lightly. Their comedic timing and chemistry is brilliant and probably unmatched. The showrunner said that Timmy was only meant to be in the show sparingly, maybe 1 or 2 episodes, and then he was going to be written off. But he was way too funny and likable to be let go. The audience couldn't get enough of Russell and Timmy's antics, and if you watch this show, you probably won't either. Timmy is the perfect straight man to Russell's ridiculousness, but he's also a threat to steal the show in any episode.
I've come to realize that I'm the one with needs no one man can fully satisfy. You've got mail. It seems as though I've got mail.
I could go on and on about Timmy and Russell. Suffice it to say that it's practically impossible not to love Timmy Patel. Adam Rhodes works with Russell Dunbar for his father's company. And for the record, they're in commercial real estate. If I had to criticize the show in any way, number one, I've never been a fan of shows with laugh tracks. Luckily, the show skates by that rule for me because they actually filmed in front of a live studio audience. So it's not actually a laugh track, although it can feel like it. The laughter can be a little bit much from time to time, but compared to other shows like The Big Bang Theory, it's not as noticeable. And I would argue that if you took the laugh track away, the show would be even better. Unlike shows like The Big Bang Theory, where when you take the laugh track away, it's a nightmare of unfunny horrors. The other criticism would be Adam's character. He goes from a fun-loving, pie-eyed, newly engaged guy to an absolute moron. Too dumb. Many shows do this to characters. Some from the start, some gradually get dumber and dumber. In Adam's case, by the end of the series, he's about as dumb as a bag of rocks. Still, the show would not be the same without Adam. It could not function without him. And I would argue some shows have characters that you can't say the same about. His fiancée Jen is really funny herself and provides plenty of laughs within the dichotomy of their relationship and with her friendship with Jeff and Audrey. Her and Russell even have some hilarious moments. Adam and Jen live in the same building as their newly formed turned long-term friends, Audrey and Jeff. I saved Audrey and Jeff for the end because as much as I would like to give Russell credit for being the main draw of the show, in all reality, it's probably Jeff. He and Audrey have been married at the beginning of the series for 12 years, and their relationship has remained funny to me since I started watching the show in 2007, when I was young and single, and in Russell's position. Now that I'm married going on 2 years, and after having made my wife watch Rules with me dozens of times, I can say that it's probably the most relatable married couple in the history of television, right up there with Doug and Carrie from King of Queens. These two put on a masterclass of comedic acting. If I were to suggest one episode to start your Rules of Engagement experience, and believe me, it would be difficult to choose, but I think I would have to go with either Snoozin' for a Bruisin' or the episode entitled Atlantic City. Both episodes are actually back-to-back in season 4, episodes 2 and 3. Arguments about who gets to control the alarm clock are hilarious and somewhat nostalgic, or the struggle to find free time away from your spouse with friends, or just to be alone without being guilted, without having to make it up to your spouse. If you watch either of those 2 episodes and don't feel like continuing to watch the rest of the series, then you are truly a rare breed. I know what you're thinking. If it's such a great show and it's so funny, how come I never hear about it and how come no one ever talks about it? Well, a couple of reasons. It was a show on CBS back during a time when you really couldn't binge watch things. You couldn't find it on streaming services. You really had to wait week to week for every episode, which I did diligently. I remember the day the episode where Jeff eats one of Adam and Jen's weed cupcakes dropped, and just watching that episode over and over on my DVR. Oh my God, DVR. Probably the main reason it's not more well known is that it got moved around its time slot. One season it was this day at this time, the next season it was moved to the end of the week at a different time of day. And back in the late 2000s and early 2010s, if the show wasn't right in front of your face every week on TV, same time, it was really hard to keep track of when it was actually going to be on. Another show that really suffered from this exact same fate was Fringe, if you've ever heard of it. I won't spoil the ending, except to repeat, it is terrific, and it leaves you wanting more every time. If there's a single show in the world that deserves to be rebooted and continued right where it left off, it's Rules of Engagement. Tell me in the comments if you've seen it before and what you think of it. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it now. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you guys next time on The Arc.